This process has to change and the dinar has to get off this sole de facto peg to the US dollar. This is the solution. That is the only way out of this mess in Iraq. They must go to a basket of currencies of developed countries as the IMF and the World Bank recommended for Iraq way back in 2011. In 2012 to 2013, the then director of the CBI, Dr. Shabibi, was going to revert to this basket of currencies which would have allowed the dinar to be reinstated. Of course, his plan was first going to conduct the project to delete the zeros. After a difficult labor, the 2025 budget tables finally find their way to the Council of Ministers. Quote, "The Ministry of Finance will finish preparing the tables and send them to the Council of Ministers for voting on them in the middle of next month," noting that the Council of Ministers will vote on the tables without delay and then send them to the House of Representatives for voting on them. We now have a new population census. They were using Article 140 but it wasn't complete, so you were not going to have equal distribution. It's not fair to come out with a new exchange rate. We now have a new population census. Iraq reiterates OPEC pledge ahead of restart of Kurdistan oil exports. 400,000 barrels a day are headed back into the market soon. They are inspecting and taking the pipeline out of mothballs as we speak. There's no way out except through radical and immediate reforms, starting with restoring the exchange rate to what it was. Quote, warns of a stifling financial crisis and for reducing the dollar price. Well, they can't do that unless of course they do what? Raise the value of the currency, dinar. They can't change the value of the dollar. The people of the region, in the world, is watching for a radical move. All the indicators are there. They've been talking about it for long enough. We can see the pressure has been up. Kurdistan government completing the population census in Iraq broke the psychological barrier. Iraqi Minister of Planning, census indicators ensure fair distribution of resources, urgent in numbers. Ministry of Planning announces the final results of the population census. Quote, the population of Iraq has increased by 39,618,000 people compared to the 1957 census, in which the population of Iraq was 6,500,000 people. They're saying they have an agreement with Baghdad to restart the flow of oil to Turkey through the pipelines this week. They are saying all the dispute has ended, exports will resume in accordance with available quantities, ensuring a gradual return to the international markets. Frank, realize what they're trying to tell you: your currency is going out of its borders. Your oil is leaving its borders. What is the oil attached to? Your dinar. Your budget is about to be pumped financially. This is getting serious. From Rafidane banks, in line with directives from the Ministry of Finance and the Central Bank of Iraq, CBI, Al Rafidane Bank has announced the launch of the first issuance of national bonds worth IQD $2 trillion, $1.5 billion. The issuance period runs from February 10 to March 10, 2025. This news comes directly from Rafidane Bank. I have had it for over a week but didn't think it particularly important. The bonds are for a fact being sold now and are being sold in dinar at the current rate. In other words, they are in circulation since February 10. They will go off sale on March 10. Iraq announces new security agreement. Trump administration. Iraq is proposing a security agreement with the US, working together as partners for security throughout the Middle East. This is big. It's exciting to see Iraq become a sovereign, independent country. It now needs a new rate. Huge wealth. What do you know about precious minerals in Iraq? Quote, Iraq is witnessing an important shift in its economic strategy, as the government is moving towards diversifying sources of income and strengthening non-oil sectors, with the project to localize precious metals among the most prominent projects on this path. They haven't turned that, Kurdistan, oil on at 1,310 because there's a whole new ballgame coming to Iraq. It's a digital world, and Iraq's real effective value of their assets that they don't have much debt, non-oil revenues, taxation, gas. It's going to be amazing, the development road project, all the industrial cities they're going to build along that path. The private sector is going to go crazy. Finally, forward movement on the budget schedules. Article, after a difficult labor, the 2025 budget tables finally find their way to the Council of Ministers. Quote, the Iraqi Parliament recently approved an amendment to the general budget related to Article 12, which settles a dispute between the Kurdistan region and the federal government over receiving the region's oil. What is it we're looking for? Budget tables, but before the budget table can even be shown, what was it we needed from Kurdistan? Oil flow, because it's going to open the tables in the budget. The oil is but one of many things that needs the new exchange rate. If you see that oil has been agreed upon and you see it's flowing and you see it coming to Baghdad, do you know how close you are to seeing those budget tables? Very close. If you are a financer and/or economists and really study how things work in the real world, it can be seen that increasing the rate of Iraqi dinar will make it more valuable, and thus more companies outside of Iraq will want it. Better yet, if you reinstate the dinar on the global trading platforms. The Iraqi Ministry of Oil confirmed, Monday, February 24, 2025, its commitment to the OPEC Plus agreement, while indicating that Iraq exported 4 million barrels per day during last January. The ministry said in a statement that it affirms its full commitment to the OPEC Plus agreement, the additional agreed upon cuts, and compensation for accumulated quantities, stressing that the ministry will take the necessary measures to ensure the implementation of these agreements, including submitting an updated plan to compensate for the surplus production during the previous period. She added, these assurances came during a joint phone call between Deputy Prime Minister for Energy Affairs Hayyan Abdul Ghani Abdul Zahra, Abdulaziz bin Salman Al Saud, Minister of Energy in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Alexander Novak, Deputy Prime Minister of the Russian Federation, and Haytham Al-Ghais, Secretary General of OPEC. The ministry stated that Iraq's crude oil production in January 2025 amounted to 3.999 million barrels per day, which is a positive indicator that reflects Iraq's commitment to the specified production levels. The ministry stressed that the Iraqi Ministry of Oil will continue its efforts to compensate for the accumulated surplus, taking into account the recent developments expected for the federal government to receive the oil produced in the Kurdistan region and resume exports through the Iraqi-Turkish pipeline, while adhering to Iraq's share stipulated in OPEC agreements for voluntary reduction and the required compensation quantities. She pointed out the pivotal role of these agreements in achieving stability in global oil markets, and the importance of the contribution of OPEC Plus member states in supporting this stability. She pointed out the pivotal role of these agreements in achieving stability in global oil markets, and the importance of the contribution of OPEC Plus member states.